so good to have another successful week of betting. It is just so nice to be back finally.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we're, getting in the groove of things. We're kind of back. 3 weeks under our belts. This isn't the preseason of the regular season anymore. We're really getting into the meat of things here.
Yeah, I mean, this past week was electrifying, to say the least.
I mean, okay, I'll admit, I was a little less electrified than week 1 and 2. But, I mean, this is a week that, I would actually commit heinous crimes to have during the middle of the summer.
Yeah, this was definitely a bloody Sunday. The favorites went 5-10 this week against the spread. There was one push. It was the Texans against the Bears. And the Texans, they're always going to find a way to tie somehow. So ultimately, the Texans were the push, 5-10 favorites. And that brings favorites this year to 19-27 against the spread. So absolutely abysmal so far.
Yeah,
but what
terrible.
That tells me is that we're going to get 1 week this year where all the favorites win.
Yeah, eventually. Or, what it also is kind of telling me is there's a lot more parity and anarchy this year. There's a couple of teams that are good, but, even those teams are susceptible to losing on any given week. I don't think we're going to see a team be undefeated longer than, week 5 or 6.
Right, we only have 2 undefeated teams left as is, the Dolphins and the Eagles. So, the Dolphins can go down Thursday night this week to the Bengals. We'll talk about that a little later, but home teams this week, 6-9 against the spread. They haven't been that successful this year at all either. So, and the public continues their struggles 1-2 this week against the spread. That brings the public to 3-7 on the season. So we're going to continue to fade the public, even though we might not, love some of the picks, but we're going to fade the public 3-7 on the year. And this season has just been pretty exciting so far. As we mentioned, 2 undefeated teams left and 2 winless teams left.
Yeah, there's, I was saying, a lot of teams in the middle there, but what has been kind of weird this year is so many unders.
Yeah.
60% of games are going under right now. It's really kind of startling. It's I thought there was supposed to be an offensive explosion. They're changing all of these rules to make it easier for the offense. And it's kind of the defenses are the hallmark of some of these really good teams.
I feel like in the early season too, you'll have better defense rather than offense because they're not really ready and in tune together in these game time situations for some teams at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things we saw this week is that the NFL concussion protocol is totally under blast right now with Tua and Garrett Wilson,
T. Higgins.
Yeah. All taking big headshots this week and coming back to return during the game. If we think back to guys like Donald Parham or Emmanuel Sanders, Antonio Brown, it took those guys several weeks to come back for what looked like similar headshots.
Yeah, and these guys are now coming back in the same game. Tua collapsed on the field. It honestly looked really bad. But
I think we all remember the Donald Parham scene. It was really scary. He had when you see the face mask get taken off of a player, something's pretty bad. So I hope he's all right. But they really need to look into that.
Yeah, and I think that's something we're probably going to see improve throughout the year because of the limelight that's being shined on it right now.
Yeah.
On a separate note, we mentioned earlier, unders are back.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
all the way back.
That also means that punters are back.
Oh yeah. They should have paid that guy. That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
Should have paid the Broncos guy, not Russ.
Yeah,
the punters doing all the work.
The punters are really out here showing they're booming kicks. Special teams have been a key point this season.
Those 2 games, the Bucks Packers primetime afternoon game, right into the Broncos 49ers Sunday night game, the punters were on full display. They were the only ones doing anything in those games.
Yeah, they showed that they're talented too.
Yeah,
Pat McAfee shed it too.
He should have. So Let's move over now to this week's best straight bets and parlays. So right now we're 11-7 on the year. We went 3-3 last week, not too fantastic, but 11-7 on straight bets so far this season. Hopefully we're going to keep that positive streak going. So let's start us out with Thursday night football this week. We have the Dolphins in Cincinnati against the Bengals. The Dolphins, one of those 3-0 teams.
Oh, yeah.
And this is actually one of our scary selections of the week. We have the Dolphins +4 in Cincinnati. Yeah, they're 3-0, but it just doesn't seem like the Dolphins are going to be able to capitalize and make it 4-0.
Well, and like it kind of feels like they're due for a loss. Like they beat the Patriots pretty soundly week 1, but the last 2 weeks against the Ravens and the Bills, they kind of, pulled miracles out of a hat a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of feels like it might be time for them to lose.
Yeah.
But the Bengals haven't looked that good, and the Dolphins have looked really resilient. Like I like the Dolphins a lot. Like they showed they could win in a weird way last week. Like
They've beaten 3 good teams too.
Yeah, they're getting battle tested early. It's definitely an interesting matchup for sure. Like I would not really have predicted that the Dolphins would be 3-0 and the Bengals would be 1-2.
Right, like the Dolphins have beaten the Patriots, they've beaten the Ravens, and then this week the Bills. So pretty solid showing so far from the Dolphins. But what concerns me about this pick this week is the Dolphins are the 4th team since 2013 to start 3-0 and then be an underdog in week 4. The last 3 all lost and didn't cover.
That's concerning.
So it was the Panthers in 2021 and then the Dolphins in 2018 and 2013. So all 3 of those teams lost and didn't cover week 4 after starting 3-0 and then being slated as the underdog. So that kind of scares me. But what I come back to is the Dolphins are undefeated against the spread this year at 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
They're 6 of their last 7 against the spread dating back to the preseason and last year. So I think they're probably one of the hottest teams in the NFL, them and the Lions. So I really think that the Dolphins have an opportunity to make a statement here and show that they are a legit contender this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say I think this all kind of hinges on Tua, as we mentioned with the concussion protocol issue. Like he might not play because McDaniel said he would have been limited if they had a real practice on Wednesday.
Right.
So if Tua doesn't play, like I am worried about the Dolphins with Teddy Two Hands.
Yeah.
I mean, Bridgewater's pretty good, but like Tua's been playing really well this year. So I do think that, the health of Tua is kind of like, if he's not playing, I'm not making this bet.
And I think regardless, the Bengals defense can't keep up with the receivers. Like, doesn't necessarily matter who's playing quarterback to me.
Eli Apple against these receivers. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what Tyreek was saying. He owes him one.
He owes him one.
Yeah.
Right. And I also think the Dolphins defense has a chance to give Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense problems. So
Melvin Ingram is going to be after him all day.
Right. So I kind of like the Dolphins here at +4. I don't necessarily like all the betting trends around it, but we're going to fade the public 49% and go with Dolphins +4.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Very, very scary.
Yeah. So now let's move over to the Sunday games. We got a few picks for Sunday. One of them is barring whether or not a player is active or not. So hold off on that pick. We'll let you know when we get there. First one, though, we're going to go with Saints +3 at home against the Vikings. 18% of the public. The Saints just looked awful offensively last week. But I think Chris Olave is legit. 9 receptions, over 140 yards. And I think he and Michael Thomas are enough to carry that team to a few wins, especially if they feed Kamara.
Yeah, I was about to say, Kamara, he got banged up week 1, was kind of like, he didn't look like himself last week, but I think we'll probably see more of like the typical Kamara this upcoming week.
Right. And
the Vikings, I think, people are still kind of reminiscing on their win week 1. Like they beat the Lions last week. Like that's a solid win. They got smoked by the Eagles. Like the Vikings are not that good, and the Saints have a really good defense. Like I think this could be a really, really low scoring game.
Dalvin Cook also looks like he might be banged up. I mean,
Madison's solid.
But Madison, he's probably one of the best RB2s in the entire league.
Yeah, he also looks exactly like Dalvin.
They do look eerily similar.
To me, it seems like the offense doesn't really miss a beat when Madison's in, since it looks like the same player.
They also both changed
and they're wearing number 2 and number 4.
Yeah, they both changed their numbers.
Yeah,
that was pretty great.
Yeah, so I think
it's a gross
time. By the way, it might be time to bring the disembodied voice, who's here in studio with us, Jimmy, on camera. I mean, I don't know why he's been sitting over there the whole time, but I think it's time to bring Jimmy on. And this pick right here is Jimmy's lock of the week.
Yeah.
So Jimmy, you want to hop in? Colts -3.5.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Wow.
Welcome.
He looks good.
Let's go Colts. I think the Titans they're coming off a big win, obviously, but I think Derrick Henry is a little banged up. I mean, it's going to be an interesting game for sure.
I mean, it should be a good one. The Colts finally got a win this past week against a really, really good Chiefs team, and the Titans finally got a win against a Raiders team that's underachieving. So both these teams looking for their second win of the season, but I think the Colts are going to come out a little more hungrier because they're right now 0-2 in the division, and the Titans haven't played any division games. So the Colts are looking to not go 0-3 in the division here.
Yeah, and I mean, as a Colts fan myself, I hate to admit it, but the Colts really play completely different at home than they do on the road.
Right.
Like, it's actually kind of startling. It's like a college team.
They love the home crowd for sure.
Yeah, it makes basically no sense, but like the fact that they're at home gives me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
And I think beating the Chiefs kind of reminded the Colts, like, oh, we're not bad.
Yeah.
Like, I know it sounds silly, but like sometimes like you just need a reminder that like you're actually pretty good, and like realizing that they're still in very serious contention in the AFC South. Like, this is basically a must win for the division. Like, do you not agree with that?
Yeah,
Like,
if the Colts start 0-3 in the division, I really
well,
just
they're
don't
not.
think.
They're 0-1-1.
Sorry. So if the Colts
Yeah.
They
start
start winless in the
winless,
first 3 games.
right,
and
winless
they
in the
are-
first
It's
3
not looking
games.
good because I mean, it's basically Jacksonville's division at that point,
Yeah, I mean,
which is crazy. to
crazy.
say.
I mean, the Jags do look pretty good,
They
Didn't
do.
we-
and Trevor
Not the
Lawrence.
same
we
Jags.
might be proven wrong.
I know. I
That-
wish he was a
that
bust so
preseason
bad,
was
but he does
pretty
not seem like a bust.
That win,
Yeah, and I think Doug Peterson deserves a lot of credit for how the Jags.
I
are
know.
performing.
that win total under is not looking good.
He's looking.
No, it is not.
He's looking
Not
like
looking
the Doug Peterson of the Super Bowl, and people were comparing, his nuts
Yeah.
to Randy Marsh.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
That's
that's
true.
what he's looking like these days. Like, he's actually, and not to get sidetracked here, but like, J-Rob looks unbelievable. James Robinson, like,
Absolutely.
he just tore his Achilles. Like,
Right.
He's looking
Cam
at his
Akers-
rookie season form. Like
he's outplaying ETN, like, just straight up.
when he's
It's
really
really-
healthy, he's
yeah,
really
It's
good.
actually
He
insane.
was a 1,000
Illinois
yard.
State product.
Right. He was
Yeah.
a 1,000-yard rusher his rookie
Yeah,
season.
but, like,
so
Achilles injuries are like a death sentence for running backs.
it's
Like,
true.
literally name a single running back that came back that is like actually good.
I
Like,
will
you can say Cam Akers and he's not good, and Marlon Mack is not good.
Right.
I will say that at the end of his touchdown run, he kind of was limping a little bit.
He's fine.
Which was
He's
kind of interesting, but I
He's
think
fine.
He's
fine.
totally fine. So now
Sorry.
let's move on to our next pick. We got Lions minus 4.5. This is the one we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
We're going to wait to see if Amon-Ra St. Brown is playing to take this Lions minus 4.5. 50% of the public is on it right now.
Mhm.
But I just think he's such an explosive receiver that he could make a big difference in whether or not they win by a field goal or win by a touchdown.
Well, first of all, I totally agree. Other thing to mention, DeAndre Swift likely out.
Yeah, likely.
But I mean, Jamal Williams, he's like a pretty good backup. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
We're not too worried about Jamal Williams playing. I totally agree with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sorry,
It's a mouthful.
tough name to say. Yeah, like, he really is like a key cog in their offense. But one thing that kind of stands out to me is more who they're playing. Like, the Seahawks in week 1, like, we all watched that game. It was a huge game. Like, they looked good, but they suck. And
Right.
Jamal Adams is out for the year.
They are in
Gino
contention.
is still Gino.
They're
Like,
in contention for the first pick.
they
Yeah.
duked it out with the Falcons last week and lost. Like, the Lions are a lot better than the Falcons. Like, this could be a blowout.
Right. And
Especially
I think
at home.
I think this number's really low, like considering that the Lions are top 2 in the NFL in scoring and the Seahawks are bottom 4 in the NFL in scoring. The Lions are averaging right now 31.7 points per game, and the Seahawks are averaging 15 points per game.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
4.5
can't
is a little
score.
embarrassing.
It's gonna
Yeah.
be interesting if they can, if the Seahawks offense can contend at all.
Yeah, like Seattle should be able to stay in this game if they just possess the
Yeah.
ball and run it a lot. But
I mean,
I
like-
really do think the Lions will be able to get up early and just outscore the Seahawks.
Yeah, and like more than that, like the Lions defense, like it's not good, but it's sneaky, like pretty good. I mean, Jeff Okuda.
They
Did
play
you
hard.
see that stat? Jeff Okuda has shut
He's
down
really-
like the
yeah.
top 3
He's shown
receivers
out.
he's faced.
Yeah.
Like, he shut down Devonta Smith, 0
He
catches
really-
week 1. Terry McLaurin had like 2 catches. Then he shut down Justin Jefferson last week.
Yeah.
Like,
He's
he's
called him a bust. I mean, he's
good. Yeah, like he's like pretty good. And Hutchinson is playing well. Had 3 sacks
Yeah, the
against.
Lions seem like they're coming together.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that they're like amazing, but like I think they
They're good
actually
team.
like
Right.
could slow down the Seahawks. Like, they have like good players, and like their offense is going to score 28 plus. Like, we can actually kind of say that.
Yeah.
Like, and kind of rely on it.
Really good offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're averaging 31 points, which means like they put up 38 one week, they put up a little less. But I think the Lions are going to be around a 28 point per game scorer this whole season.
Yeah, and like I think the Seahawks are probably pretty likely. I mean, not likely, pretty lucky to get to 21 points on a weekly basis. Like, they're kind of relying on a defensive touchdown or a special team score
Right.
to get to that number.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next pick. We got the Commanders, the commies, plus 3.5 at the Cowboys. Look, yes, we hate Carson Wentz, but I just think coming off the big win in New York, Dallas, everyone's really high on Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. I think it's a little bit of a trap here for the Cowboys at minus 3.5 at home. 26% of the public's on the Commanders. So they're honestly, I really don't have much, for why I like the
Commanders
Commanders.
secondary is just, I can't trust them. And I think Cooper Rush can do his thing against his secondary.
Like everything I've ever said would tell you to take the Cowboys, but that's just kind of the way betting works sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a situation where everyone, I think, thinks the Commanders suck, which they probably do. But, they had 2 bad weeks on offense. Like, they're probably going to look better this week.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys, kind of have played, 2 perfect game plans with Cooper Rush. They're probably going to look worse this week.
McCarthy's not good enough to go 3 for 3.
I mean, Kellen Moore is really the one, that's doing stuff.
Right.
And Dan Quinn on defense. But, think that the Cowboys are probably going to win this game, but it wouldn't shock me at all for the Commanders to randomly win it.
Yeah.
The Cowboys defense is good. Micah Parsons is defensive player of the year, runner-up. I mean, not runner-up, front runner right now.
Right. So that should probably bring us down to the game of the week. Sunday Night Football. We got Buccaneers versus the Chiefs in Tampa. We don't know if it's actually going to be in Tampa because of the hurricane, but Buccaneers are home. And so we like the Bucs +2.
Mm-hmm.
For one reason mainly, in the last 20 years, Tom Brady is 10-0 following a loss as an underdog.
Yeah, which is insane.
So I'm just gonna go ahead. Tom Brady's the GOAT. I'm just gonna trust my bet in his hands. I think the Chiefs are better. I think they'll have a better year, but the Bucs at +2, Tom Brady after a loss. I really just like the way he's able to motivate his team after losing.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that scares me is I really wish the Chiefs had beaten the Colts because they're kind of in the same boat. Mahomes doesn't really lose consecutive games
Right.
basically ever. So I think they're kind of in a similar spot here, which does concern me a bit. But where I think the Bucs advantage comes in is they're getting at least Mike Evans back, maybe Julio or Chris Godwin. That offense is just gonna look way better.
Yeah.
And their defense is the real deal.
Right, they're a Super Bowl favorite.
Yeah, I am a little worried where their heads are going to be at mentally with everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully everything is okay with that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's the only thing that kind of gives me pause is that the Chiefs are needing to bounce back
right.
too.
And the game is likely going to be in the Midwest, so a lot of Chiefs fans may migrate
Yeah.
from Kansas City to that game. I don't know a lot of Bucs fans that aren't down in South Florida.
If they can even travel, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just see as the events kind of unfold throughout the week. This is one to monitor,
Yeah, but for now we like
Yeah.
the Bucs +2. 30% of the public likes the Bucs +2. So primetime game, we're always fading the public in primetime. So another primetime game, we got Monday Night Football, 49ers, Rams division matchup. 49ers looked really bad last week.
That's to say the least.
Yeah, the Rams coming off a division win
Where
against
they
the
still look
Cardinals,
bad.
and they looked bad. So I think we're going to go with the team that looked worse and go with the 49ers at -2.5 at home against the Rams. That's 36% of the public. The public covered the last 2 Mondays, and if the Rams cover this +2.5, I think we might start just tailing the public on Mondays. But for now, we're still going to fade the public. We like the 49ers. I think Debo is a good enough playmaker to kind of get in the end zone a few times, make this at least a game. I do think the Niners can win at home.
McVay is really he's not that great against the 49ers career-wise, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because these teams run such similar schemes. I really just feel like the Niners, they can't be that bad on offense again.
Right,
They're
right.
just gonna bounce back a little bit, and their defense is really good.
I just think everyone was so high on Jimmy after coming in for
Mhm.
Lance and getting the win, and then they kind of disappointed, and you can expect them to bounce back.
Yeah.
There's a Super Bowl favorite as well, so they have one of the best rosters in the NFL.
Yeah, and I mean, the Rams just haven't really looked like anything special.
They
Honestly, offense or defense.
No.
So I don't know. this one is like a tough one to make, but like I feel like I kind of trust Shanahan in this situation. He's always gets up to some weird tricks in prime time.
McVay's 7-10 against the 49ers all time.
Yeah, so not favorable.
Which is pretty bad for him. I mean, I'm sure he's like 600 to 700 against everyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's move in now to the parlays. First, we got the easy money away. Hasn't really been that easy so far this year. We're 1-2 on the easy money lay, but we're going to go ahead and keep calling it the easy money lay for now. We got the Eagles money line against the Jaguars, the Lions money line against the Seahawks, and the Packers money line against the Patriots for plus 146 odds. We just like all three of these teams at home. We think all three of these teams could make the playoffs. I mean, the only one that's really in question is the Lions, if they can continue to perform.
And they're playing the worst team.
Right. And I don't think there's any doubt the Eagles or Packers are going to make the playoffs this year.
I think the Jaguars is the best out of the three, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the Jags scare me just because they've been playing well, but like the Eagles look really good.
Right.
I mean, I
they're
feel
playing better.
yeah,
They're 3-0, and people aren't acting like they're 3-0.
Yeah.
I feel like they're still not being given the benefit of the doubt.
yeah, I agree.
So now let's kind of move into what's more exciting. The Hungry Dogs lay. This past week, the Hungry Dogs parlay actually hit at plus 1,700 odds. You know, we're going to go ahead and celebrate that one.
Yeah. You shouldn't mess up all. I swear.
I know. Let's go, Hungry Dogs.
You know they run faster, right?
Yeah, that's
You know,
right.
Last week, we had the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Broncos. All three underdogs won. We're going to try and,
Do it
make sure
again.
the Hungry Dogs continue to run faster.
Yeah,
So this week, we have
we're not feeding them at all.
Yeah, we have the Commanders money line at the Cowboys, the Ravens money line against the Bills, and the Bucks money line against the Chiefs. So last week we bet against the Bills and the Chiefs in our Hungry Dogs parlay. We're kind of doing the same thing here because of how high everyone is on those teams.
Yeah.
And I do think the Ravens and Bucks are going to come in like they have something to prove against them.
Yeah, and them both being like at home like makes actually a really big difference. Like those two teams are similarly, big contenders in both conferences. Like
Yeah.
I think these are incredibly tough games for both of those teams. And the Commanders and the Cowboys, like that one to me is kind of like a toss-up. So like
It's a division game. You can always.
at worst, these are all three toss-ups. Like we're getting ridiculous value here, basically.
Right, and I really like the plus 1130 here. A $10 bet's paying out $110. That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I just think that all three of these teams, as you said, could end up winning the game. If they are toss-ups, the Bills coming off a loss, everyone's expecting them to bounce back, but
The Ravens
I
are
think
good.
The Ravens are good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the Ravens could
And
win
they're
the
banged up.
AFC
The
this
Bills
year.
are banged up.
Yeah, Lamar's going for the MVP, so
He
in
needs to
his
win this
contract year. I talked in the episode in the preseason
About him MVP.
about
Like he's
how-
looking good.
Yeah, about how Lamar MVP because it's his walk year, and we're
Mhm.
seeing what Aaron Judge is doing in the MLB in his walk year. So I kind of thought Lamar would see that and say, "I'm going to bet on myself here."
I think that's what he's
just
doing.
Try
Absolutely.
and will the team.
He's something else.
I mean, he has to be the front runner for MVP right now. I mean, him, Hurts, and Allen, right? Who else?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know who else is going to be up there unless one of those three guys ends up getting
Hurts.
hurt.
Hurts.
Yeah.
Hurts.
So now let's move on to our player props for this upcoming week. So last week, first of all, Misha, I'm going to put you in a little timeout. Last week, Misha went 1-11 on player props. 1-11. It's pretty hard to do that bad. After his little timeout, we'll let him say something for himself here. If there's even anything to say about going 1-11, I just it's unacceptable. I just don't think it's 1-11.
It was brutal.
Good, you're right.
I never even thought it was possible.
Yeah, it's just as hard to go 1-11 as it is to go 11-1.
Like, I wish I could say I wasn't trying. Like, I wish I could say that.
Yeah,
like,
you should have just taken all the options.
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe I'm a genius and I just need to fade all my picks.
Right. So I take that with a grain of salt when you're listening to all these player props that Misha's bringing to you this week. That he did go 1-11 last week. So
I changed up my whole process this week, though.
Yes, new shirt.
Yeah,
I don't know
shirt.
if you can't see it,
New shirt.
he's wearing a Grateful Dead shirt right now instead of a culture.
Yeah, usually I'm wearing some sort of, NFL paraphernalia.
Yeah, so I think it's the change up with the Grateful Dead shirt is key.
Yeah.
I think that might be.
I think that might be
good
some
for
better
Picks.
mojo.
Did you change up your strategy at all when looking at the players?
Not really. Don't have any other strategies for looking at the players. It's still just, the same strategies there. But I'm thinking I'm going to, start incorporating some more touchdown bets. Because sometimes, like last week, Lamar misses his passing yards one by 3 yards. But I knew he was going to score a rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm now incorporating 5 touchdown bets
every
single week, and then some fewer player props where I seemingly am not good at those.
Yeah, and the player props are brought to us by Prize Picks.
Yes. But then the touchdown ones, the touchdown odds are different on every book, so it's very confusing. So, they're available on every single book. Go find the book that you like the most with the best odds.
Right, but for the player props, it's from Prize Picks. For touchdown odds, check whatever sportsbook you use. We get the odds from BetMGM.
Yeah, they just didn't have all of them up yet. But I'm sure that, better books might have them up.
Yeah, better books. So we're going to start off here with the most important position on the field, passing yards.
Mm-hmm.
We got a few big passers who have shown out this season so far and throughout their careers. We're going to start out with the GOAT, Tim Brady.
Tim motherfucking Brady.
Tim motherfucking Brady.
I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but he literally had nobody last week. He was throwing to Cole Beasley and Russell Gage.
And he almost won that game.
Yeah, if he's getting at least
nearly forced overtime.
Yeah, he's getting at least Mike Evans back, fingers crossed. I don't even know what's wrong with Julio. He just seems like he's perpetually injured now.
Yeah.
But maybe Julio plays a couple of snaps, whatever. This is a really low number for him. And, on the season, his stats are a little bit misleading. He's only averaging 224 passing yards, but he's averaging 294 air yards, which is the potential yards that he could have if people were actually catching all the passes that he was throwing that were catchable. So, he's getting a couple players back. He's playing an easier defense this week. The Chiefs are nothing special. The Packers are much better defense.
And again, this over-under's at 255.5.
Yeah, that's low, in my opinion. So I really do think that, Brady, like we've mentioned, he's coming off a loss.
He's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT. He's going to bounce back. People are doubting him once again. And what happens when you doubt Tom Brady is he wins another Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean,
it's quite annoying.
Somebody that, a lot of people are high on that hasn't necessarily proven themselves yet in the playoffs. We have Josh Allen's over this week as well.
I mean, that's kind of a bastardly thing to say after he gave us the greatest playoff game ever last year.
I'm still a Bills hater. I'm a Bills hater, okay?
But I mean,
it was obviously not his fault.
I don't think the Bills. Don't even get me started. Josh Allen's 1-4 in the playoffs. Okay,
he's not amazing. I'm just saying he played well in the playoffs.
Maybe if they had
he's not Brady.
Maybe if they were good enough in the regular season last year, they would have had a home
They shouldn't have lost that snow game to the Patriots.
Yeah, without when Mac Jones had 12 passing yards.
Yeah, 2 total attempts.
3.
But whatever. Let me tell you why I like this. First of all, this number just kind of jumped out at me. It's a little bit lower than some of the other really prolific passers like Mahomes. 285.5 is kind of around the average is what I was thinking for Josh Allen. And actually what I realized is that his season average is 338. So that's quite a bit, higher than this. It's only a 3-game sample size, but he's obviously capable of throwing for over 300 yards on a consistent basis. And I frankly think this game is going to be a shootout again.
Yeah.
The Bills are a little bit banged up, especially on defense. The Ravens defense, I thought it was good, but it's seemingly not that good.
They're just okay.
Yeah.
So just coaches them well.
I mean, I don't know. If Tua was shredding them, I feel like Josh Allen is going to have not the hardest time shredding them as well.
Right.
And they haven't really ran the ball well this year. I don't know. It just seems let's get back to the basics. This guy is good.
Yeah.
He's going to throw for a lot of yards.
Yep.
Right. I mean, moving on to somebody who may not throw for a lot of yards.
Or be good
consistently. Jared Goff, over 249.5 passing yards.
Yeah. And so what I thought interesting about this one is this was kind of a similar situation to me with Brady. Goff on the season is averaging 249 yards.
Right.
So he's getting this, pretty consistently. But similar with Brady, he's averaging a lot more air yards, actually 324 a game.
Oh, wow.
Which is quite a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And like hopefully, as long again, this one is kind of in the same boat as that Lions pick, like assuming Amon-Ra actually plays. Like I think that Goff is gonna kind of reestablish that connection. As I've been talking about a lot on this podcast, the Seahawks actually suck.
Yes.
Like they're literally horrible.
Bad.
And the Lions don't have DeAndre Swift. Like they're gonna pound it with Jamal Williams, no doubt about it. But like it's 250 passing yards for Jared Goff. Like I really do think he could get this in like the first half.
Yeah.
Like if they come out
especially
like
if Amon-Ra's out there.
Yeah. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting about Jared Goff is this season he's actually only been at 59% completion rating, but the 2 seasons before this he's been at 67%.
Okay.
So I'm thinking
that kind of shows he's taking some more risks.
I'm agreed, but I also think it's more just kind of like an anomaly. There's been a lot of drops to start the season, and that's why you see the disparity between the air yards and his actual yards.
Right.
So I think, just like hopefully just he's like 63%, and a couple more of those like theoretical yards become real yards, and he gets like 275 passing yards.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely hit this over. So.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on now to my favorite fantasy football position and yours.
Yeah.
The running backs.
Mm-hmm.
We got rushing yards for probably the top 2 fantasy backs. First off, we're going to start with who is likely the number 1 overall pick in your fantasy league. He was in mine.
Mm-hmm.
John Taylor, over 82.5 rushing yards this week against the division rival Titans.
Yeah. It feels like he's been kind of quiet to start the season, right? Like the Colts have been kind of bad. Like he's been running a lot. And like week 1, he like ran a good amount, got the yardage total that we needed. But week 2, he had that terrible game against the Jags. They only gave him 9 carries. But last week, he got like 25 carries. Mm-hmm. So I think the Colts realize if they have a chance at winning, like they need to feed JT.
Yeah.
They need to give him the ball. And I think this line is a little deflated. Like at the start of the year, like it was like you couldn't get the line under like 95 yards a game.
Right.
Like we're down to 82.5 here. Like he's probably the best running back, at least like yardage wise right now, between him and Henry, I would think.
Yeah.
He's going to get 20 to 25 touches in this game. I think he can average 4 yards per rush against a pretty average Titans defense. Like Saquon gashed them week 1.
Right. And the thing about John Taylor, like the Colts said it on Hard Knocks last year, they think he's the best running back in the NFL. So they're going to feed him and give him those carries. And if they don't, then the players on the team are
going to lose.
Frank Reich and say, we need to give John Taylor the ball more.
Yeah. Or they're going to lose.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we also mentioned like we like the Colts this week. Like I think they're going to try to reestablish their identity again and kind of impose their will on the Titans, which is going to be tough. But, I mean, they have a better chance of doing that than allowing, Matty Ice to shred people through the air.
Which I don't know if he's capable of doing anymore.
And they don't need him to. Frankly, like JT, if you give him 25 touches in this game, he's going to run for 125 yards, maybe $150. Right. He's going to play well.
I think that might have been the issue with week 1 and 2 also. Like the Colts may have thought Matt Ryan had more left in the tank than he actually does.
Or they were just trying to show him off, like a new toy. Like you just want to use it just because you have it.
Right. He has more than tank left than Philip Rivers did, but I mean, it's just not. It's going to be tough.
Yeah,
he has a 2-year contract. I mean, we're going to have to draft a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also just think Matt Ryan thinks he still has stuff left in the tank. Philip Rivers kind of knew he was at the end of the line.
Yeah, I think
he played like that, and it was honestly the best.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. So now let's move over to our number 2 fantasy back, Saquon Barkley over TBD rushing yards.
Yeah, so this line wasn't out yet, but I'm taking it. The Texans don't have a good rushing defense. Basically, whoever goes up against them gashes them.
Right.
JT week 1,
Bears.
Javonte, and then Khalil Herbert last week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this line's going to be at, but really basically up to like 85, I'll probably take it. Like Saquon is back, it seems like, and the Giants realize that they have to throw it to him because all of their wide receivers suck or are hurt.
Right.
I mean, like Sterling Shepard out for the year, Wan'Dale Robinson hurt, Kenny Golladay is whatever he's doing.
Don't forget about Richie James.
Yeah, I mean, Richie James. I mean, I don't know. Like, they're giving the ball to Saquon a lot. Like, the only thing that I will say is that I would also consider maybe his receiving and rushing, like, total. Just because he, like, does get a lot of catches.
Right.
So, but regardless, like, I see this being a pretty big game for Saquon. Like, I kind of am getting the feeling I'm probably just going to be betting on him most weeks. Like he's,
It's kind of like a Carson Wentz interceptions pick.
Yeah. And like, who are the Giants playing again? Someone not that good, I want to say.
The Giants this week?
Yeah.
No, it's not the Bears, is it?
No.
Let's wait for it to come over on the ticker.
Sorry.
Yeah,
this is really good podcasting here.
Yeah, we're just going to watch the ticker with you guys, I guess. Oh, yeah, wait, no, it's Bears-Giants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Bears-Giants.
Yeah, so the Bears rushing defense is fine, but like we saw Dameon Pierce kind of, run it on them pretty effectively last week.
And
like,
Saquon.
yeah, like, I don't know. Like,
He's special.
there's going to be like 40 passes in this game. There's going to be a lot of running from both teams, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you mentioned earlier that Saquon's a threat in the receiving game also.
Yeah.
I think we should move into the receiving yards.
Yeah.
So first up, he kind of went viral this week because he called out Eli Apple. We're going to go Tyreek Hill, and this is contingent on Tua playing.
Yeah, as noted right there. So last week, I was all in on the Dolphins, and they had that really weird offensive game. But Waddle still showed up, and Waddle has kind of shown up in every game. So I think like he's kind of due for a little bit of a slow down performance. And I just don't think you can keep Tyreek down 2 games in a row.
Right.
And I definitely don't think anyone on the Bengals, like you said, Eli Apple is going to stop Tyreek. Like this is a game where I think, Tyreek might catch multiple bombs. Like I'm quite confident in Tyreek this week.
Yeah.
Like,
and 71.5 is pretty low when he can get that on one play.
One play. Yeah. Like if Tua plays, like I said, I think this is going to be kind of a shootout.
Right.
Especially if Tua is playing. So I don't know. I like Tyreek a lot this week. And I really like when players have a bad week that are really good, then their line goes down a couple of yards, 5 to 10 yards, and then you hit them the next week when they're maybe even in an easier matchup.
Right.
So,
somebody else with not necessarily the hardest matchup. We talked about how their defense has been struggling. Gabe Davis over 50.5 receiving yards. We have Bills against the Ravens this week.
I mean, I'll shamelessly admit it. Gabe Davis is on my fantasy team. I really like this guy. Basically he gets hurt, doesn't play week 2, kind of weird. Last week he plays, I think he got around 3 catches, 45 yards.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he just gets a full week to kind of recover here. This game I feel like should be a shootout, as I've mentioned before.
Right.
The Ravens, like I'm just having flashbacks of Tyreek and Waddle just like streaking down the field. And like
Gabe Davis and Diggs can do the same thing.
Yeah, basically. And like if I personally were the Ravens, I would try to shut down Diggs because he's, might be him.
Yeah.
He's potentially
him.
He potentially Himothy,
He's in contention for
Yes.
It's potential.
He might be Himothy Chalamet.
Yeah, it's possible. So like if they do that, it's even easier for Gabe Davis. But like either way, like he kind of played like below 100% last week and still almost got this. He's had kind of, people have forgotten about him. Like he played well week 1. He had, the first touchdown of the season. And I'm pretty sure it was actually like 45 yards. So basically would have got this on one play.
Right, the first touchdown of the NFL season on Red Zone.
Yeah. No, it was on Thursday Night Football.
Oh, right. Thursday Night Football.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a Gabe Davis believer. I think this is a nice bounce back spot for him. And yeah, I feel like last week I was picking a lot of guys that were hot. Now I'm kind of, flipping it the other way, going on guys that people are a little colder on.
Right, like Amari Cooper.
Yeah. So this is actually the opposite of that.
Like people were cold on him before this past week.
Basically, I still think that Amari Cooper, like people just like are not like recognizing that he's like still good.
Yeah.
Just in general, like I think he's like really getting slept on. And literally the reason why I'm liking this bet so much is because after week 1, Jacoby Brissett said he watched the tape, and the one thing that stuck out to him was that Amari Cooper was always open. Literally always open.
Amari Cooper's 28 years old, guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's not like that.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's pretty young.
He has a lot of left in the tank.
Yeah,
He
and
really
so
does.
basically since that comment, Brissett has targeted him 10 plus times in the last 2 games. And he's gone off. So like they're not, playing anyone like that crazy. They're playing who are they playing? God, I keep forgetting.
The Browns this week.
Yeah. Who are the Brownies playing?
They're
Oh,
playing
the
the
Falcons.
Falcons.
The Falcons. Excellent. The Falcons defense sucks. The Falcons defense.
See, having this ticker here, can we just,
I know.
it is like super convenient.
It's so convenient. Like
Like,
I
all the
liked the bet,
spreads.
and I didn't even remember who they were
You know,
playing.
like,
And the
Panthers
Falcons
minus-
suck.
Cardinals, Panthers. Like, why are the Panthers even favored in this game? You
I'm
know?
stunned by that. Like it's disgusting.
All right,
but I don't want
let's
to
get
take the
back.
Cardinals
Let's
because
get
they suck. But yeah, basically the Falcons defense horrible. Amari Cooper good. Brissett knows that he's good. Wants to throw him the ball. That equals
Yeah.
more than 57.5 yards.
You know who else is good?
I think it's time for the scary selection.
Oh God. Oh God.
Greg Dortch.
So this one scares me a lot, and for
Yeah,
a
I mean, it
multitude of
should.
reasons.
I mean, there's no reason this guy should have 9 catches in 3 straight games.
Yeah. So the main reason why I'm scared is because I don't know who he is. Literally
bound to
never.
fall off.
I thought he was a rookie. He's not.
He's Greg Dortch.
He's been elsewhere. I don't know. I didn't read further, but like he wasn't a rookie, which stunned me. Whatever. But this guy, he is their guy, and so this one does come with a tiny contingency because I think the only reason he's getting all these targets is because the Cardinals have basically no healthy receivers. Because
he's a stud.
Well, because Andy Isabella and Rondale Moore are hurt.
Right.
So as long as one of those guys is still hurt, I'm all in on Dortch. Still.
Dortch. The
If
Dortch
both,
train.
if both of
Dortch is in
them,
his
if
third year.
yeah, if both of them are back, then
He was drafted to the Panthers or picked up. I don't know if he was drafted, but then he spent his last 2 years in Arizona.
Well,
Yeah.
Dortch is
They love their short
emerging as
games.
a talented player.
yeah. So, but basically, what I'm saying is that if the situation with the Arizona wide receiver stays the same, Dortch has had 50 plus yards in the first 3 games. Like, I'm just kind of closing my eyes and believing in Dortch.
Yeah. You know who I'm not believing in? I mean, I guess I am believing in him, but I'm also believing in him to throw an interception.
Yeah.
So this is the weekly Carson Wentz.
Yeah, 2-1 so far on the year.
Over half an interception.
Yeah. I mean, last week we kind of got robbed because he definitely would have thrown one,
He was terrible.
but he got sacked 9 times.
He couldn't even throw.
He didn't have a chance. He
was so
wanted
bad.
to throw it
He
so
was-
bad.
Yeah, he wanted to. So
Like,
bad.
I felt it. I didn't watch much of
That's
that
his
game, but I
dude.
felt
Mhm.
it through the screen that he wanted to throw an interception and he just was getting sacked prematurely. So he's going to do it this week. That's what I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we bet on it every single
Yeah.
week.
He's due.
He's
He's
always
literally
due. He's
due.
always
He's
due.
literally due though.
He only threw 7 interceptions last year.
Yeah, but that was because he
He's
wasn't
going to
throwing.
throw 5 times that.
He's
this year.
going for the 30-30.
I think
I'm
this
telling
is-
you.
I think Carson Wentz might be the first 35-35 passer in NFL this year.
I mean, right
17
now
games
he's
season,
on a
yeah.
pace. He has 3 picks so far through 3 games, 17 pick a season. It's not bad. I think those are rookie numbers though. You can pump those up. Get those way up to 30.
More picks.
Way more picks from Wentz.
See, if he could
You
just
get
start
one
throwing
top
more
shot.
interceptions, we could just start taking over 1.5
Yeah, I know.
interceptions.
I
Yeah,
know.
crazy odds.
Yeah. Don't even know if books offer that.
Yeah. So you talked about to score a touchdown odds earlier.
Yeah.
How you added some players, hoping to get yourself out of the funk.
Yes.
You mentioned somebody who you thought would score a touchdown earlier. Let's just stick with the Lamar train. MVP.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know
We
how
can
many.
say that,
I don't know.
right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know how many more times I can say
Third
it.
one.
I think this
No,
year.
this year.
This
He
year.
can win
I
this
do think he is, MVP worthy this year. But more importantly, I don't know how many more times I can mention that I think this game will be a shootout before it is going to be like a 10-7 game. But yeah, like Lamar wants to win MVP. He's going up against Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Like he's clearly interested in running the ball because he wants to make a lot of money. He's had 8, I think he had 7 and 8 rushes the last 2 weeks for over 100 yards both weeks and a touchdown.
He's one of the top rushers in the NFL.
Yeah, like-
I mean, it's ridiculous.
He's looking to score with his feet. Like I don't know. Like I think this will be kind of a crazy game, and crazy games quarterbacks score rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, they definitely do.
I-
Lamar's not like most quarterbacks, too.
No.
It's not even like you're trying to get him in from the 1-yard line.
I was interested in Josh Allen as well, but it's just something. I don't know. It just feels like the Bills are reeling a little bit. I don't know why. Like it just feels that way a little bit.
Just
and-
because their coaching, honestly, when you see the offensive coordinator freaking out, I mean, that's kind of a red flag.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just feel like Lamar is just like more surefire, like in the red zone with his legs.
Right.
Like, or actually, I guess maybe not in the red zone, but just like he just.
Well, I mean, if the Ravens
likes
are first
running.
and goal,
Yeah.
the Ravens are first and goal, you have to spy Lamar.
Yeah, like I think just this year, Josh Allen, like he's still running the ball, but he's taken a turn of being more of like a elite, like accurate passer. Where like
Right.
Lamar, like he's also like still playing very well through the air. It's just his feet are kind of like he knows that he's like on another level.
Right, like kind of a similar story here with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why I like this one, Lamar, he's been scoring pretty recently on the ground, so I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm trusting his talent.
Right.
Hurts, he's been dicing people through the air, and that's been really surprising people. And I think people are going to maybe cue in on that a little bit and try to take it away. He's going to go right back to running.
Right.
He hasn't scored a rushing touchdown. He didn't score last week. I think he's bouncing back.
He changed his mechanics throwing in the offseason. I mean, he's really proven that he's taking the next step to be a franchise quarterback potentially.
Yeah, well, and I will say, like, the Jags seem like they have a pretty solid defense.
Yeah.
So, like, they shut down Herbert, who was injured, and they shut down Phil Rivers, whatever. But
Right.
Wentz, who's like a little bit more mobile, I would say, and likes to scramble, I guess, was like more effective against them. So I think that Hurts with like his scramble and rushing ability can kind of like put a lot more pressure on that defense. So I think he just like will have to run a little bit more this week. Where like last week, I think he was pretty content to just sit back there and dime everyone up.
Right. I mean, because he could.
Yeah.
Part of the three Batman.
Right. Like somebody else that we're expecting to kind of carve up the defense. Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a weekly bet similar to the Carson Wentz throwing an interception.
Yeah. I mean, he
mean-
gets in the end zone almost every single week.
And yeah, he did it on the ground for the first time in his career. Yeah,
Impressive.
last
That was
week.
pretty great.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get back to doing it through the air.
I like
Yeah.
him to get into the end zone. I mean, sometimes I like Kupp over 1.5, depending on who they're playing. If it's
Yeah.
going to be a higher scoring game, he is Stafford's favorite target.
Yeah.
He's probably the most reliable receiver in the NFL right now. So it's easy to take the Kupp over half a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's been like eating at the goal line recently, though, Jamal Williams over half a touchdown is another pick we really like.
Yeah, I mean, this is my fuck DeAndre Swift blow up fantasy performance special right here. And every DeAndre Swift owner hates Jamal Williams because he steals every single goal line carry.
Yeah.
And now Jamal Williams is likely going to be playing by himself back there. Like,
For a few weeks at least.
it's like every single time this happens, he goes for 100 yards and 2 TDs, or like 30 yards and like 3 touchdowns, like the
Right.
1 yard line.
Yeah.
Like,
He's the goal line back.
I'm basically positive that he's going to plunch one in against the Seahawks.
Let the
Right.
big
And
dogs
Craig
eat.
Robinson
Yeah.
from Hard Knocks is probably going to get him this week too.
Let the
Maybe.
big
Or
dogs
Craig Reynolds? Craig Robinson is the guy from the office.
I don't remember. I don't know. I don't know. Who
It's
you're
Craig
talking about.
Reynolds. It's Craig Reynolds.
Sure.
I think it's the perfect time.
He's backup running back.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move over to the touchdown parlay of the week.
Yeah. And so I think that's what the format I'm going to go with if it goes well this week. 4, straight bets and then one little spicy parlay with the touchdown ones. And someone I mentioned earlier, Amari Cooper, who I love. I think that Brisket is going to throw this guy a lot. And now I'm remembering why I like him so much because he's playing the Falcons, who suck.
Right.
And what I think is going to happen is the Browns are going to get out to a lead by throwing it to Amari, and hopefully he scores a touchdown. And then they're literally going to give him a healthy dose of Chubb.
Chubb. Give him the Chubb.
I don't want them to give him the Chubb, just Chubb.
Yeah, no.
I mean, Chubb has just been awesome. Like, I don't know, like the Falcons defense is literally horrible. Like, I just think that these two guys are kind of like inevitably going to get into the end zone because whoever is guarding them, like, cannot do it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, they're definitely top 5 at their position, like talent-wise. I don't know about fantasy value-wise, but Amari Cooper, I feel like, is arguably a top 5 wide receiver. Chubb's arguably a top 5 running back, maybe top 10. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
Yeah.
but
I think he's a top 5 guy.
I'm just okay.
When healthy, like he is
I'm-
a top 5 guy.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think that the Browns are going to score around 5 touchdowns in this game because
Right.
the Falcons defense is horrible. And I don't think it's too much to ask for their 2 best players at running back and wide receiver to each get one.
That's true. I mean, I totally think it's a simple ask. That's why we like it for this week's touchdown parlay.
Yeah.
So now let's move over to this week's same game parlays. So last week we had some same game parlays. We've actually been doing really well this year on the same game parlays. The first week, kind of iffy. That being said, we're 11-7 this year. A little bit of a comeback, 3-1 last week on same game parlays.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to start it off with the Browns plus 8.5 at the Falcons and the under 58.5 for that game. I just really don't think the Falcons and the Browns are going to outscore the Seahawks and the Falcons.
Yeah. Well, and like I just said, like I think the Brownies are probably going to score about 35,
Right.
which leaves, the Falcons to score less than 23, which I think is super reasonable.
Right, and I really do think the Browns can run away with this game. Maybe,
Yeah.
Like a 35-14.
14.
I was going to say 35-13.
Yeah.
That's we're going to go ahead and let that
Yeah.
score guess.
Or
in.
let's say it's,
Browns are
closer.
not gonna
Let's say it's
score.
closer, like it's still like 28-20.
Right.
That's like easy.
Right. And we're saying the Browns are going to win. So
Yeah.
you're getting the plus 8.5 points here. Like that's pretty solid value for a team that we're expecting to win the game outright.
Mm-hmm.
Another team we're expecting to win outright, the Commanders. We're going to take them plus 13.5 this week at the Cowboys and parlay that with the over 33.5 at minus 160.
Yeah. I mean, the 33.5 is actually the one that probably, that's the scary one, which is insane.
Right. I just think
going to be able to score enough
I know.
points to get
I just
that.
think it could be like a 21-17 game.
Yeah. That's 38.
Yeah.
That'll work.
So I think a 21-17 game, like in the Commanders' favor, we're getting 13.5 points.
I mean, 21-10 doesn't get it done.
You're right.
It's crazy.
That is wild.
And that could easily happen.
It could, but over 3.5, we're kind of taking the maximum boosted over here from the mid 40s. So we like the over 33.5. I just think the Commanders' offense is going to bounce back a little, and the Cowboys' offense has shown that they can put some points up even if they're field goals.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair.
So the next one, we got the Eagles money line against the Jaguars, paired with the over 38.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are, they're two of the hottest teams in football, which is weird to say about both of these teams, actually.
Yes.
But
Historically, yeah.
I do think the Eagles are going to get this done, especially at home. That'll be big. And over 38.5, that's pretty low. I mean, like, both these teams put up a lot of points. They get a lot of numbies,
That's true.
Easily. I mean,
I think either of these teams could get this on their own.
Jaguars put up numbers really easily last week against a pretty good Chargers defense, honestly.
Yeah. So I think this high-scoring affair, Eagles pulling it out.
Yeah, that's kind of why we see it with the over and the Eagles money line.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to do our last same game parlay of the week. We got the Steelers plus 6.5 and the under 50.5. That game is in Pittsburgh at minus 170. So I like the Steelers to probably win this game against New York, but I don't know if either of these teams are going to put up 20 points.
Well, and you know what's interesting? I would like this a lot less if I thought Joe Flacco was starting.
It's Zach Wilson.
But I'm
now.
pretty sure Zach Wilson is starting,
Yeah.
and he is going to suck
You think so?
against the Steelers defense. That's such a hard spot to play
It
against
is.
on the
It's a tough
road.
spot to go in, but when you're the Jets, it's hard to get in
Yeah,
any spot.
But I don't know if either of these teams are going to have a lot of success scoring at all. Like this
Right.
could be 2014.
Yeah, I agree, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think
Yeah.
the Steelers are going to win the game. Though.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move in to kind of a new segment. We're not doing name that player anymore.
I know,
At
believe it
least
or
this
not.
week,
Yeah,
we're testing
we're
out
gonna
a new
try
format.
we're gonna try something new. We are, however, going to keep the name that player music. Here it is.
It's
that
quite
time.
electric.
I know you guys. Have
However,
been waiting all week for
The
this.
segment now, we're gonna go with something new. We're gonna do name that Hall of Famer.
Similar,
So-
but different.
What this is, Jimmy has come up with 3 players.
Yeah, so this week we got running backs, one Hall of Famer, one player who played at a really high level but didn't make the Hall of Fame at least yet, and then the third player is an active player that's solid at his position, so that's a running back obviously. So I'm really excited to show you guys player one.
Yeah, so you can see on the bottom the ticker shows some of their stats. So player one at 7 years played, 89 games and 1,400 rushing attempts with almost 7,000 yards, 67 rushing touchdowns and almost 5 yards a carry and 78.5 yards per game. And then in the receiving area, 99 receptions, 904 receiving yards, 3 receiving TDs, and then 2 Pro Bowls, an Offensive Player of the Year, first team All-Pro, second team All-Pro, but no Super Bowls.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Misha, do you want to read off player two?
Yeah, so player 2 also played for 7 years, had 991 attempts, around 5,000 yards, almost 40 rushing touchdowns, 5 yards per rush, 73 yards per game, 112 receptions, 1,300 receiving yards, 9 receiving touchdowns, 5 MVPs, 4 Pro Bowls, 5 first-team All-Pro.
No
0 Super Bowls.
No Super Bowls.
Yeah.
All right, so player 3, they have 9 years played, 141 games played. They rushed for 2,865 attempts for 10,441 rushing yards. They had 68 rushing touchdowns, 3.6 yards per carry, 74 yards per game, 268 receptions, 2,227 receiving yards for 10 receiving touchdowns. They earned Rookie of the Year. They earned 4 Pro Bowl selections. They earned an MVP. They earned 1 first-team All-Pro, 1 second-team All-Pro, an Offensive Player of the Year, and they also made a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, so winning MVP at wide receiver, like
Running
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 back.
back, that kind of
Yeah,
that narrows it down a little
quite
bit.
a bit.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they made the Hall of Fame. Like Jimmy could be trying to trap us with that little tidbit there about him winning Rookie of the Year.
I will say that the MVP thing does kind of give me quite a bit of intuition as to which 3 these are. I mean, the guy who didn't win MVP is probably the current player because there's no current players, running backs that I can think of that have won MVP, unless
Right.
we're counting Adrian Peterson as a current player, but he's not.
He's a boxer
Right.
now.
Yeah.
So player 2 to me seems like the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, he has 5 MVPs. I really want to say that it's Jim Brown, but like the stats don't seem like they're Jim Brown.
Right. I don't think Jim Brown played that many games, did he?
For player 2,
In 7 years, 900. Oh,
that's
sorry.
attempts. That's
Yeah,
attempts.
yeah, my bad.
You have the right era.
Yeah, I just don't remember which running back won 5 MVPs.
Could be Walter Payton.
Did he win 5
I don't know how many
MVPs?
MVPs
Earlier. Wow.
Earlier.
Do you guys want me to just say the players?
No,
No.
not yet. No. There's a
You
lot
guys
of
don't be so-
intrigue.
don't
There's a
be so-
lot of
don't be so-
intrigue
don't be
here
so-
right now. Well, let's try to think of who player 3 is.
9
1
years.
MVP,
But he
No,
1
no.
Super Bowl.
Can
Honestly-
I give you guys a hint? On this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
He won a Heisman.
And he won MVP.
I will actually give you another hint on player 1 too. He also won a Heisman.
Player 1 won the Heisman.
Yes.
7 years played.
I'm going to go ahead and guess that player 1 is Derrick Henry.
That is correct.
Wow. Electric. I like that. I like that a lot.
So that's not the Hall of Famer. So now
Yeah.
we've got 2 choices left here. Are both player 2 and player 3 from the Jim Brown?
No. Player 3 is like he kind of played early 90s or late, I guess mid 90s to early 2000s. I want to say.
Marshall Falk.
No,
Wait, who's the guy for the Seahawks? Was that Marshall Falk?
no, that's Sean Alexander.
Was it Sean
No,
Alexander?
it's not. Think about Heisman Trophy.
I know. Didn't he win the Heisman?
I'm
No.
not sure, honestly.
Heisman Trophy winners.
That also won an MVP.
1 Super Bowl appearance, 4 Pro Bowls, Rookie of the Year, late 90s, early
Oh,
2000s.
LaDainian Tomlinson?
No.
Uh,
This guy retired in like 2004.
2004.
wow.
It's kind of a tough one.
But they won an MVP?
And a Super Bowl appearance. Think about 90 Super Bowl appearances.
Did Barry Sanders go to the Super Bowl?
No,
No,
Yeah.
I don't. You don't.
Think like late 90s Super Bowls.
Late 90s.
That's a gap in my knowledge, is what I'm learning
I want
right
to say the
now.
Rams were like in that
Think
area.
about one of the teams that they played.
The Rams.
The Patriots have a good running back.
No, they didn't play
The
Patriots.
Panthers?
They didn't play the Panthers.
It is an AFC team.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said the Panthers.
All right, we need another hint on this guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What conference did he play in college?
The Big Ten.
A Heisman running back winner from the Big Ten that also played in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Someone from Ohio State.
Yep.
Fucking
It's
He's a
not.
big back.
I know it's I actually am blanking on his name. He was in a commercial last week.
I don't pay attention to Ohio State players. Don't care about them. I want to say it's the clarinet guy so bad, but it's
No,
definitely not
it's
him.
Oh my God, you're
He
gonna
won
say
a
his
fucking.
name,
Yeah.
and
If
I'm
I
gonna
say
be
it,
so
you're gonna be like,
pissed.
wow.
I'm gonna be so pissed.
He's a running back. I
running
thought
back.
Troy Smith won a
Yeah, he
Heisman.
won a Heisman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a quarterback.
Eddie
Oh,
George.
Yes.
it's Eddie George.
Yeah,
Eddie George indeed. He
Brought
was
me
not-
No way he's a Hall of Famer.
brought me no pleasure.
No
to
way Eddie
see
George
that.
is a Hall of
No
Famer,
pleasure.
right?
He won an MVP.
He won MVP.
Eddie George is in the Hall of Famer, right?
Well, you want to guess who player 2 is?
Yeah.
Well, I think player 2 is the Hall of Famer. with
Yeah, I
5
know,
MVPs
I know,
out here.
but who
It's
is
gonna be
it?
so tough. I mean, I don't think you guys are gonna.
Yeah.
guess it.
Then why would you pick someone like that?
He made it challenging.
Because
This was
I wanted to make it a
entertaining.
little challenging,
This
yeah.
was good. This
You
was
want me to-
good.
It's a Bears running back. I'll say that.
I said, well, not Walter Payton.
Not Walter Payton.
I don't know any other Bears running backs.
They have other one that
He's-
won 5 MVPs.
Yes, Gale Sayers.
Oh, I do know.
I
Gale
know
Sayers.
Gale
Sayers.
He actually is unbelievable. His average
Yeah,
yards
he
per
plays-
touch is like
I ca-
15 or something.
Yeah, so basically, I try to make it like even in the seasons
Yeah,
play.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
this
I
was
like
good.
that.
This
Yeah,
was
you did a
good.
good job finding
But-
players. Maybe someone that like whose name we might be able to
Okay,
guess.
I think that the
It would be-
MVPs though, we might have to
Cut the
cross that.
MVPs because that kind of
Because-
made it easier to figure out who the Hall
But
of
it was
Famer
still interesting to figure
So
out who
like
the
no
players
rookie
were.
of the years or anything like that. Just like
No.
players.
I think rookie of the years and all that is fine. But
Right.
like MVPs,
Like someone could
That
like
really
Reggie Bush.
distinguishes
That was kind of obvious. Yeah,
Yeah.
with 5 MVPs. I mean,
because if you take the MVPs off, then literally they're all really
even.
Like
really
5
similar.
MVPs, Offensive Player of the Year,
Which is
Rookie of the
crazy
Year.
because he
4
only
Pro
made
Bowls.
4
Yeah,
Pro Bowls.
crazy 5 years.
Yeah.
He won an MVP and did not go to the Pro Bowl.
That's crazy.
That
And a
is
crazy
true.
How was
5
that
years.
possible? Even
His first 5 years of his that was crazy. And
Yeah.
He played 2 more and he's done.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that was a pretty successful name, that Hall of Famer.
I liked that more. That was more
Absolutely.
interesting for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's something to
Yeah,
start.
clap it up. Good segment. Yay. That was good.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much does it for us. You know, if we might be changing some of these picks based on who's playing, who's not. Check our Twitter at betting10pod. Obviously on Twitter to find our tweets about the picks. So
That's right.
that's all we got for you guys today. You know, Betting 10, we're happy to provide you guys some winning picks. Not Misha, he provides you losers. But yeah, that's it. We're out. Peace.
Peace.
Ah.